Good day, children. So previously we have seen that the narrator, who is Mrs. S's daughter, she went to Mrs. Darling's house to bring her things that were taken by her during the wartime, because Mrs. Darling had told her mother that she'll be keeping it safely in her house, and after that whenever they wanted it they could take it back. So first time when the narrator went to Mrs. Darling's house, she refused to recognize her, and then when the narrator saw the cardigan that she was wearing, then she understood that she is on the correct house. And then Mrs. Darling told her that she doesn't have time to talk to her, come some other day. So next time when the narrator went to the place, she knocked at the door. This time the daughter, Mrs. Darling's daughter, opened the door. Now here, when she knocked at the door, a girl opened and then she asked, "Where is your mother?" She said, "No, my mother is not here, she's doing some work." So she said, "Doesn't matter, I'll wait." The narrator said, "I'll wait for her." And then the girl, she took her inside the room, and the room was having the old-fashioned iron candle holder. It was hung near the mirror, and the narrator remembered it because it was theirs. They never used it because it was very delicate, and they always used single candlestick stand. Then the girl asked the narrator, "Will you please sit down?" And then she opened the door of the living room and the narrator went inside. She stopped over there because the room in which she was, it seemed as if the room was quite familiar to her, because all the things that were there in the room were her belongings, and she was very much oppressed to see the strange atmosphere of the room, of the living room, because of the tasteless way everything was arranged. So whatever things were her belongings, they were not put properly, they were not arranged properly in the room, and she was feeling very bad. They were of the ugly, means the tasteless manner they were arranged, and because of the ugly furniture or the muggy smell hung there, and those belongings were kept with the ugly furniture. The furniture of that lady, Mrs. Darling's house, were not good, and the muggy smell was coming, the soil smell was coming from there. I don't know, but I scarcely dared to look around. But she did not want to look around the room. The girl moved a chair, and then the narrator sat down. And then the table was covered with the woolen tablecloth, and the narrator tried to rub it with her fingers, and she got warmth by rubbing. Then she tried to follow all the lines. The woolen things have lines in that, so she followed each and every line, and then in one corner she found the burn mark that was there, and it had not been repaired. That burnt mark took place in the narrator's house, so it was not yet repaired. "My mother will be back soon." The girl, she said, Mrs. Darling's daughter said that my mother will be back soon. So shall I prepare tea for you? Will you have a cup of tea? So the narrator said, "Thank you." I looked up. The girl, put cups ready on the tea table. So she started arranging the cups. She had a broad bag. This girl also had a broad bag like her mother. She poured tea from a white pot. And then from the white pot she started pouring tea for the narrator. All it had was a gold border on the lid. I remembered she opened a box and took some spoons out. And the teapot had a golden ring on top of it. And after that she opened a box, took out the spoons from there. That's a nice box. I heard my own voice. And the narrator's own voice started speaking to her that this is a nice box. It was a strange voice, as though each sound was different in this room. Because whatever voice came out of her seemed to be different because she was sitting in the different house. Oh, you know about them, she had turned round and brought me my tea. She laughed. My mother says it is antique. So the narrator, the daughter, Darling's daughter, she said, do you know about them? And then she turned around, brought the tea, and she said that my mother said that these are the antique pieces. These cutlery, they are the antique pieces. We have got lots more. We have got many cutleries like this. She pointed out round the room, see for yourself. And then she pointed the room. She said, see in the room, there are so many lying over here. I had no need to follow her hand. I knew which thing she meant. I just looked at still life over the tea table. The narrator did not look around because she knew what she was showing. She only kept her concentration on the tea table. As a child, I had always fancied the apple on the pewter plate. And then she remembered that when she was a small child, she always liked the apple to be kept on the pewter plate. We used it for everything, she said. Once we even ate off the plates hanging there on the wall. So the narrator, the Darling's daughter, she said that once we ate food on the plates that are hanging on the wall. I wanted to so much, but it wasn't anything special. Then she said, I wanted to so much, but they are special. I found the burn mark on the tablecloth. The girl looked questioning at me. And when the narrator was just looking at the burn mark of the tablecloth, the girl looked at her as if she was questioning her. Yes, I said, you get so used to touching all these lovely things in the house, you hardly look at them anymore. So the narrator said to her, yes, you are used to all these things, so you hardly look at them. You only notice when something is missing. So when something is gone from here, then only you are aware of it that something is missing. Because it has to be repaired or because you have lent it, for example. So if it is to be repaired or if it has gone to somebody else's place, then you miss it. Again I heard the unnatural sound of my voice. So the narrator, her inner voice, was speaking to her, and she went on saying, I remember my mother once asked me if I would help her polish the silver. So the mother asked her once, would you help me polishing the silver spoons? It was a very long time ago and I was probably bored that day. Perhaps I had to stay at home because I was ill. And it was a very boring day for her. And because she was ill, she had to stay at home. And then she had never asked me before. I asked her which silver she meant. She replied, surprised, that it was the spoons, forks and knives, of course. And that was the strange thing. I didn't know the cutlery we ate of every day was silver. And when I asked my mother, which silver you are talking about? So the mother said, I'm talking about the spoons, forks and knives. So that day I came to know that these by which we eat, the spoons that we use for eating, they are of silver. The girl laughed again. So the girl started laughing. I bet you don't know it is either. I looked intently at her. So the narrator asked the daughter of the woman that you also must not be knowing it. What we eat with, she asked. So the daughter asked, with what we eat? Well, do you know? So the narrator asked, do you know? She hesitated. She walked to the sideboard and wanted to open a drawer. I looked, it's in there. So the daughter of Mrs. Darling, she went, she opened the side drawer and she said, I look, it's there here. I jumped up, I was forgetting the time, I must catch the train. At that very moment, the narrator remembered that she had to catch the train, so she got up, she stood up. She had her hand on the drawer. Don't you want to wait for my mother? And while the daughter was standing, holding the drawer open, she asked, don't you want to wait for my mother? No, I must go. I walked to the door. Saying so, the narrator, she said, no, I have to catch the train. The girl pulled the drawer open. I can find my way. And she said, okay, no, you don't worry. I'll find my way. I'll go to the station. As I walked down the passage, I heard the jingling of spoons and forks. And when the narrator was moving out through the passage to the main door, she heard the jingling of the spoons and forks that were made by the narrator, Darling's daughter. At the corner of the road, I looked up at the nameplate, and when she came out of the house, she looked at the nameplate. It was written Marconi Street. It said, I had been at number 46. The address was correct. And the narrator, she said, I went to 46 number house and the address was correct, but now I didn't want to remember it anymore. And then she said to herself that I don't want to remember the street name, the number of the house. I wouldn't go back there because the objects that are linked in your memory with familiar life of former times instantly lose their value when severed from them. You see them again in strange surroundings. So the things that you have lost, the things that are gone from my house, that are not now, that are somebody else's belonging now, which were my own belongings previously, now they are the belongings of the other people. Now I don't want to go, I don't want to remember all those things that once they belonged to me, because they are kept in the strange surrounding, they are not kept in a proper way, they are not arranged in a proper manner. So I want to forget all those things, and what should I have done with them in a small rented home. So now at present I'm living in a small rented room, so I don't need them anymore. I don't have enough place to keep all those things. I just have a handful of cutlery with me. They are quite enough for me, and they are quite sufficient for the narrow table drawer that I have. I resolved to forget the address. So she says, okay, now I promise that I will forget that address of Marconi Street, number 46. Of all the things I had to forget, that would be the easiest. So it is better to forget the address where my belongings are kept. So here you have seen that the narrator, first she wanted to bring her belongings back home, but later on when she sees that all her belongings are kept in a strange manner, they are not kept properly in the house, they are arranged in tasteless manner in the house, then she resolves to forget those belongings of hers, and she decides that she doesn't want to keep it anymore. She doesn't want to own them anymore. So that's all for today, children, and this is the end of the lesson, and I hope you must have understood the story. The address I have divided into two parts, part 1 and part 2. So very soon I'll be giving you the notes, and you complete your notes, and by today is 23rd, and I think by 30th or 31st of this month you should send all the notes on the by PDF. Then I'll mark all the names of the students, those who have shown me their copies. So goodbye, children.